Well, good Monday evening, everyone, and welcome to Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. It has been a great run so far. We are on our 55th episode now, which is crazy thinking back to the time we started this just last year. But it's been great to talk bowling with lots of folks, both in-state, out-of-state, really all over the country. And you could be next if you're passionate about bowling and have a unique story to tell. And let's face it, we all do. Hit me up. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Andrew Pfeffer. You can also email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. Shoot me a note. Let me know what you're all about. And I would be happy to talk to you about being on the show. This week, we are going to start out with some problems. We have some problems right now. First of all, my first problem I want to tell you about is that Barry Asher is running out of Hall of Fames to get inducted into. The USBC reported just this afternoon that he's been elected to the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. That makes 8 Halls of Fame for Barry Asher. If you're familiar with our show, you may remember seeing him. He did come on episode 31. We had a great chat about his bowling career and even mentioned Kingpin, which he has an appearance, or not Kingpin, I should say, The Big Lebowski, which he has an appearance in. His name is listed in the credits. He talked a little bit about Tom Smallwood's new show that's supposedly coming out soon on CBS. Don't really have a date on that yet, but it's coming. But congratulations to Barry Asher, PBA Hall of Famer, USBC Hall of Famer, and now elected to the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. What a great thing for him. Another problem we have, and this is if you haven't voted yet, for Best of the Chippewa Valley, the Volume 1 Reader Poll. I talked about this a little while ago, last week's episode, that Bowling with the Fef is in the Best of the Chippewa Valley Reader Poll in Volume 1 magazine, which is an arts and entertainment publication here in this area in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And it's under Best Local Podcast. None of the other entries are about bowling. So if you love bowling and you like the show, I would appreciate it if you clicked on the link and voted. It's bit.ly/vote BWTF, and it is case sensitive. So remember, the voting is only for another week. It ends on December 12th. So again, bit.ly/vote BWTF. I would absolutely appreciate your support both in that. And if you want to support the show, you can certainly do it by liking and subscribing to our show. The subscribe link is in the lower right-hand corner. You can find it right there and be the first to know when we have live and recorded videos by clicking the bell after you get to the little subscribe interface. It's pretty slick there. And yeah, we've got content that we're putting up all the time, more and more. And I would love to share it with you. So our last problem that we have has to do with our sponsor, Chip Megna Salsa. We are simply running out of grocery stores in the Milwaukee area to put this stuff. It's everywhere. I was talking to a guy over the weekend about where he could find it in Milwaukee, and I mentioned Festival Foods and Woodman's and Sendik's, and I thought that was it. Today, I learned that's not it by a long shot. Chip Megna Salsa, which is made here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, you can find it at those 3 supermarkets. You can find it at Whole Foods, at Metcalf's, at Outpost locations, most Piggly Wiggly stores, and Pick and Save. So if you're in the Milwaukee area, please check it out. Go see if you can find a jar at your local supermarket. This picture here is actually from Sendik's in Mequon, and you can see they've got many of the varieties: mango habanero, cilantro lime. You got Wicked in there, hot mess, and the black bean variety. And really, there is a type of salsa for any taste: hot, mild, and medium. Like I said, locally made here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. and distributed to 38 states and Canada. So if you find it in your grocery store, please pick up a jar. If you don't, you can order it online at chipmagnetsalsa.com. It makes a great Christmas gift, and we know the holidays are almost here. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. So our guest today comes to us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He is a Muskego native. Really one of the best bowlers right now in Wisconsin. If you don't believe me, watch our last episode because Lenny Borsch came on and he told me as much. Chad Kloss is here with us tonight at Bowlers Headquarters Pro Shop in Milwaukee, which he owns. He is a Milwaukee USBC Hall of Famer. He's a former touring pro, part of the team that took fourth place in team all events at the OC this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second in the team event.
There you go. Well, congratulations to you and the rest of the team, and welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you on tonight.
Thank you. And thanks again for everything you do.
Thank you. It's awesome to have you on, to have the rest of the folks from Bowlers Headquarters. We've had a bunch of them so far, and it always makes for great material for us. I want to start out by talking about some nicknames. I have listed here Chatty Cakes, Slick Willie, Iceman, Mr. Bean, and Goldilocks. Now, my dad, who unfortunately passed away very young, was big into nicknames. And that being the case, I'm kind of big into nicknames. So you got to tell me the story behind these nicknames. Who are these guys?
Well, obviously, Chatty Cakes is me. I believe Dave Fenna started that, and Kim kind of added on to that and created some other chatty / nicknames. Slick Willie started, we were at a tournament, and there was a big banner on the wall that it was for Slick Willie's Bar and Grill. So just out of nowhere, I started saying Slick Willie, and then just kind of caught on. Iceman is James Tucker. He's one of our teammates, and when I first met him, that's all I could think of is a movie Top Gun. When Iceman sits there, he's like, "Slider, you stink," and he just has that kind of stone face. And that explains him to a T. Mr. Bean would be Joe Vrobel. I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Bean, but he is a TV show.
Yep, and the movie.
Yep. Joe looked, his mannerisms, everything. Sense of humor, it fits him to a T. And Goldilocks is, of course, Mitch Beasley. When he grew out his hair forever, had the Goldilocks thing going on. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And I think I talked with Will about this. He said it's endearing. I think it's endearing too. Is it kind of a rallying point for you guys when you're out on the lanes to use those nicknames, in competition?
Yeah, with Will, Will, I will say this, with Will and Tucker, it's definitely, Will and I bowl a lot of doubles stuff together as well. And with him, it's definitely something, when we start get going, it starts coming out and kind of amps you up a little bit, as I think we pretty much kept it amongst ourselves with the Mr. Bean. I kind of just started that one with Joe. Had to make sure he was okay with it. And with Mitch, but I do think that it adds a little extra to it. It gets you pumped up a little and start getting called some different names you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys, like I said, have had plenty of opportunity to get pumped up with some fantastic performances on the lanes. Of course, that doesn't happen overnight, and you got to start somewhere. So let's talk about how it all started for you in the sport of bowling. Where, when, how did you get into it?
My parents both bowled. They bowled a Friday night couples league, or mixed league, I should say, at Red Carpet Celebrity. And we used to go there, back then the arcades were cool and everything. And so we'd always run around the center, and my parents got us into it. I believe I was 5 when I first started in league.
Oh, wow.
And then as I got older, just started really liking it and getting into it. And Gina Dereshevsky was one of my coaches, which was pretty cool, So just kind of really picked it up, and then stopped bowling for a few years though.
Okay.
2000, I met my now ex-wife. She got me back into bowling. I quit for about a year and a half. I played darts, won a national dart championship,
Oh,
and
wow.
realized that at that time the mega bucks stuff was still paying great. And I was in Vegas. We won an event, top 5 in every other one, and walked out of there with $1,300. Well, we were there for 13 days. So, as you know, in Vegas, $1,300 doesn't go a long way.
No, it does not.
So I just got back into it, and she actually pushed me into it. We had our daughter, and just I've always loved bowling. It's pretty much been my life, and it was fun to get back into it.
Yeah. When you first started, I mean, obviously there's that, that first kind of jolt where you realize, ooh, this is something I really want to get into and start, practicing and getting good at. How did that progression go for you? Was it just practicing at Celebrity or other houses? Was it junior leagues? Was it tournaments?
For me, I think, well, I was 16 years old when I really liked it. When I really was like, you know what? I really enjoy this. And I was at Bayview Bowl. Me and a friend of mine, Chad Polinsky, we went down to Bayview Bowl, and we're warming up, just practicing and having a good time. And these guys walk in, Bill Madunik and Doc Wells, and they said, hey, do you mind if we bowl with you kids? Like, yeah, come on. So, it was a 16-lane center, I believe 16. And we started bowling pot games. And I'm like, okay, well, this is fun. Then this is what really got me into it was an older gentleman walked in. So I thought he was older at the time. Jim Miller Jr. And Jim Miller Jr., my opinion, one of the best lefties to ever throw a bowling ball. Him and I bowled till 6 o'clock the next morning. I couldn't bowl for 3 weeks after. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then just really got into it, at that point.
Sure. Who were some of the, the people your age that were, kind of into it alongside you? Maybe you bowled against some folks, maybe you bowled with them on a team. Usually all of us have, some peers that kind of, you push them, they push you. Did you have a group like that?
Honestly, I didn't. I really didn't. I fell more into that once I started. I went adult at a younger age because I did not go to college and bowl. So I went adult at a younger age, and I really hit it off with the older guys. The guys that were in their late 30s, early 40s at the time. Obviously Gus being one of them. A lot of those people, a lot of guys from the South Side, the Jim Miller Juniors and Brian Lorkeys, and some of the older guys from that area took me under their wing a little, bowling some WSBT tournaments, and kind of getting involved in that at a young age. And that's kind of the route I took, and just enjoyed it. Started bowling the Mega Bucks stuff, the Super Winky a lot. And, it was something my dad and I did together. He came with me to every big tournament, and, so it was fun.
Yeah. What was the Milwaukee bowling scene like back then when you were starting to get into it? I mean, every city is different now than it was 15, 20, 25 years ago, but Milwaukee is pretty well known as a great bowling community, the bowling capital of the world to some.
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference now, we have a lot of tournaments even now. We got a lot of centers starting up little sweepers and everything else. I would say the biggest difference now would be when I was coming into it, those guys in their late 30s, early 40s, even in their 50s, they were bowling. They were there. The $100 entries, they were there. It didn't matter. I think you're seeing a lot of the people now that are in their early 50s that were bowling, that were in their 30s at that time, are not. They're not bowling as much. It's a lot of younger, again, as I'm obviously getting older. So it's a lot of younger kids, but it just seems different, honestly. It's not a bad different. It's just different, I feel like bowling at a hole now in Milwaukee is getting big again. There's a lot of new bowlers, a ton of new bowlers, which is great. We got to keep them in it and keep them bowling, and a lot of these little sweepers help. They give people a chance to bowl on a competitive level for not as much money, not as much pressure, which helps, as the cost of everything goes up.
Sure. Yeah. I would assume at some point you need to get your own bowling equipment, your own bowling ball. You need to get fitted somewhere. Where did you go for your first, second, third bowling ball?
For me, it was Sarar.
Okay.
Joey drove my stuff for, I would say probably 20 years. And then when I left Sarar, I went to Chucky Eberhardt. Rest his soul, had just passed away recently. Went to him for about 2 years, and then went to Craig Mueller for a couple of years, and just, I got to see the differences between everybody, everybody can pretty much hit the lines. But it was layouts. It was, a lot of differences, and Craig was great. And then as I got a little older, right before I went on tour, I started coming to Megna, and him, and at the time Mark Ukiker was with him, and they helped me out tremendously. I can't thank either one of them enough.
Yeah. I'm a guy who is very particular about drilling. I mean, like you said, you realize the differences. Everybody can hit the lines, but the feel can be a little different, and so on and so on. And you find your guy and you stick with them, and it looks like you've kind of had that guy in several different parts of your career. But to kind of land on a guy like Sarar, a guy like Megna, is there a confidence that you feel that comes with having that part of it kind of in the can?
Absolutely. I think, especially now being in the industry, I understand now that part of it even more. I knew I could always call Megna and, hey, John, this is what I'm looking for, this or that, and he would just get it done. And it always felt the same. Never had to worry about it. And that is a big confidence thing. And, even for myself now, with other people drilling my stuff, to me, that I use myself as the person, hey, if we got somebody like right now, I have John Schwengel that has started at the shop and he's learning, I've had him drill me a ball or two, because I feel like once you can do it for me, then I feel at that time you're good enough for the customers, and I'd rather be the test rat than a customer.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned, kind of meeting Megna, talking about when you first went on tour. Tell me about, how you got to know him in those early days, and how he helped you before you made that, let's face it, big step, to go compete against the best in the world.
Well, I had decided that I was going to bowl a Masters in 05. And really, honestly, didn't know a whole lot. I mean, I knew how to hook the ball then. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go bowl. And I did very well. And John helped me out throughout. That is when it started. I was able to come to John. He took care of me that whole week as far as equipment goes and everything, because I didn't know any of the tour reps or any of them. So he took care of me. and pretty much just, I don't want to say held my hand, but in a sense held my hand as far as equipment goes. Back then I didn't have a good financial, upbringing. So I had a lot of people that helped me along the way to get to that point of where I was. My first year on tour, after the Masters, I went ahead and TQR'd for a year. So it was myself, Dino Castillo, Ronnie Russell, Troy Wallenbecker, Mitch was out there a little bit at that time, all TQRing for the whole season. And then tour trials came up, and my buddy Jason Wojnar from Illinois, and Mike Sopper, they put me in the tour trials. They're like, go bowl. Okay. So I went and bowled, and was fortunate enough to make it through, and that kind of started the tour side of things.
Yeah. When you say TQR'd, for people who aren't familiar.
Yep. So
what does that mean?
Every tournament. So at that time we had the exempt field, and there was, I believe, 64 exempt, or 48 exempt. It was somewhere around there. There was always 7 to 12 spots available. You would go to these events, bowl pay $300, bowl a 7-game qualifier, and if you finished in one of those spots, you got in for the tournament. And at that time you were guaranteed $2,000 an event. That was the lowest you could cash for.
Yeah.
So.
How long did it go? I mean, you obviously had some success there early on.
Yeah, my last year of my card was 2011, I believe.
Okay.
World Series of Bowling, took 6th, I believe, that year, 5th or 6th in the World Series, and came home and had to make a decision. The tour was kind of at that time going downhill financially. And had I went to the US Open, I would have been exempt the next year. And I came home, and Tim Moss, the company he worked for, just had an opening, and it was, I had my daughter at the time, then now my son as well. And the job paid well, and it just seemed like it was the right thing to do,
Sure.
So, and it turned out after that year, they stopped the exempt field,
Yeah.
So had I gone to the Open, I still, financially, I wouldn't have been able to do it. There just wasn't the money out there anymore, without the guarantees. At that time, it was my way to support my family.
Sure. Do you feel like a lot of guys who are really talented, a lot of guys, a lot of ladies, come up through the ranks, they seem to be on that trajectory, but then a financial roadblock really kind of keeps them from becoming, world beaters?
I seen a lot more of it in the past. I feel like, over the years, especially with college bowling, college bowling has gotten enormous. Even high school bowling's gotten enormous. So I've seen it, in the past, I think it was a little bit more, there's so many people physically that could go and bowl. And Chris Barnes had talked about it in one of his interviews back in like 07 or 08. The bowling was not the hardest part about touring. Roommate, that's your husband or wife or whichever one they were there with you for. At that time, we were going to 24, 25 different states, over a 6-month span. So that part was hard, and I was fortunate enough to have some really good roommates. I roomed with Jason Wojnar, Rhino Page, Patrick Allen, and then my best roommate of all time other than Wojnar is David Trevor.
Huh?
He was awesome.
Yeah. What was it about Trevor that, kind of made you light up just then?
He was just relaxed, and, he had been out there for a long time, and he just knew how to handle everything. As far as on the pro tour, the national tour, I should say, like I said, you were traveling so much. We didn't always drive together. He let me do my thing. He did his thing. We respected each other's space and privacy. And, that was a big part of it because, like I said, you're attached at the hip almost for, 5.5 months. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you take the highs and the ups and the downs throughout the tour, itself. I mean,
Sure.
sometimes you need a little time for yourself, by yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned early on you hooked the ball. I remember, bowling in league with you. I remember you being a guy who could really swing the lane and open things up that way. And we're in a league at Waukesha where there's a house pattern out there. If you can hook the ball, you're going to overpower it. You're going to score. And that's how I saw you back then. Now, I talked to Gus about you, and Gus says he is one of the most versatile players I've ever seen. Duty says he sees a lane, sees a ball motion. He has a ball roll that when he gets lined up, you just can't catch him. And even this past weekend, I saw you pointing it straight up. When did you kind of acquire that versatility, and how? How did you make that happen?
So, take a step back. After the Masters, I went and bowled a regional. At that time, Gus was a ball rep not ball rep, but a DSM for a track. So he was their sales area, guy. And he had signed me to a contract at that point for track. So I went and I bowled a regional. And I won it,
Your first one.
The first regional. So at that point, I was like, oh, geez. All right. Well, this is easy, But then as I bowled a couple more regionals, I started seeing the different lane play and everything. And we had a big league on Monday night at Classic Lanes Greenfield, Gina's place. Mm-hmm. And people, they hear Dale Trevor, Dale's one of the most accomplished bowlers in the state, probably one that most accomplished bowlers that we'll ever see in the state, outside of Lenny. Okay. And I don't know how the conversation started, but I had approached him and asked him for help. And he worked with me, on Monday nights after league, playing straighter, and I remember him telling me, I want you to throw a ball up 5. I threw a shot. I'm like, there you go. He goes, no. He goes, throw a ball up 5. There it is. It's right up 5. He goes, no. He goes, you're hitting 8. I'm like, no, I'm hitting 5. He goes, no, you hit 12 on that one. He goes, try to throw it in the gutter. And just worked with me getting that, because what people don't understand is everybody sees the lane a little different, right eye, left eye dominant. You think you're in one zone, you're really in another, and if you don't pick the ball up till a little bit later, sometimes that early trajectory gets, missed, and you think you're in a different spot of the lane than what you really are. Okay. So Trevor was a big help. I mean, and he's one of the best straight guys there is in the world, let alone the state.
Sure. Did that take a while? I mean, you kind of make it sound like you were in one frame of mind, he was in another, and you kind of had to come together where you were actually digesting what he was telling you and able to reproduce it.
Yeah, it took probably about a month. Okay. Because I did respect Dale, and I knew that if I want to get better, this guy's that way, and seeing how some of the regionals were playing and everything at that time, they started playing pretty tough. We had every region had their lane man out there and all of that. So, what he had to say, I had no reason not to listen to, and you just had to do things a little different, and being one-dimensional was not the right way to be.
Sure. Yeah. Do you remember a time maybe after those lessons from Dale where you went out, found the shot to be, up the gutter, pointing it up, something like that, and were able to do that and succeed at it?
All of 2007 on tour.
Okay.
Every pattern played straight. Scores were low. But every pattern started out where you had to be able to play straight.
Sure.
Otherwise, you were in trouble. And it was just that year. They had the highest scoring tournament that year was the first plastic ball challenge that Jeff Carter won. And I want to say the average to make the top 32 in a 64-person field was probably about 208 that year.
Wow.
To make the plastic ball challenge, it was 240. So, everything it played that whole year played straighter and harder, and at that time, that was kind of the hard part because the newer guys out there, we had our 5-set patterns and they played a little different at every center. But then the next year they would change those 5 patterns, they'd tweak them, and everything else. So as you start, being younger and fresh out on that scene, as you start to see them, well, then they change, finally, when you figure that out, well, they're different next year, so it really, you had to have an open mind. And that was one of my biggest issues out there, was that experience to understand the first 7-game block can be one thing. And even though it's the same, the next block don't always play the same. Don't always, so it's really a whole new tournament when you go into that second block. And that's something that was hard for me just to mentally grasp.
Yeah. What was it like in 07 when you go and win the Peterson with a 1657? Which, outsiders looking in may not sound like much, but this is the Peterson. And if you've heard about it, maybe you can tell us a little more, because I've never shot it, but there's a lot of a lot of factors in it, aren't there?
Yeah. It's honestly, it's just a great tournament. I went there. Lenny had put together a big squad every year. I think he still does it. And just went there to have fun. Yeah, there's money on the line, everything else, but you really went there to have a good time. You knew you were going to leave some really weird stuff, and when you go to the Peterson, you make your spares, you'll do okay. That's really, if you're going there expecting a strike, well, you might want to just belly up to the bar. So, but it's just a fun time. And, when somebody does, and whoever it is within that squad starts having a run, it's like everybody around just like is really rooting that person on. They all really just grasp onto that person, which is awesome. And thought I was going to pry one off again this year, but fell a little short.
Yeah. But again, 1,600 plus, which is a huge number out there. With a tournament like that, where you don't know what to expect, that's got to be very gratifying to have multiple years where you're really in the hunt or winning the whole darn thing.
Yeah. I enjoy it. If you look at the people that are always successful there, Liz Johnson, Adam Barta, a lot of these people, they generally play the lane straighter. Adam obviously can hook the ball still, but I'm assuming he's not trying to at the Peterson. And spare shooters. It's what it comes down to, is spare shooting. And again, I really believe this is one of the biggest factors, is going in there to enjoy yourself. That's become a different part of me in bowling. I still have my competitive side where I get just as mad as the next guy, if not more. But a tournament like this, you have to go into it just to have a good time. Be around your friends, enjoy it, laugh at the stupid stuff that happens, and, just kind of go with the flow.
Sure. Let's kind of jump ahead to when you decided that you were not only going to compete, but you were also going to get into the pro shop game, the pro shop business. Megna came on the show. He said, "I'm so glad I picked Chad to sell it to," meaning the shop. He's done wonderful. He's as passionate as I was. He's gaining more knowledge and experience all the time. So how did that part of, your bowling life start?
So, a while back, I was also doing during the tour stuff, and a little before that, I was doing ball testing for Ebonite, and I had learned how to drill my own stuff. I had to because I had to drill it out there. So I learned Wojnar. He also did ball testing, so he helped me learn, how to do that as well. And I enjoyed it. And then I was out playing golf with a friend of mine, Steve Yeager, and I was playing golf, and he bowls as well, and he knows how much the game means to me in that. And decided, we had talked a little bit about it. I had talked to John a little bit about it, and Steve was my financial backer in getting the shop, and I love it. There's nothing else that I would rather do, is to be able to compete as well as this. It's very gratifying to see when your customers do well, and we have a lot of customers here on all different skill levels, but we have an amazing group of customers in that they can be competitive in tournaments, that they apply themselves, and they really want it, and it's fun to watch, and it's fun to see.
Yeah. Was there any surprise from Megna? I'm assuming there's a point where either you come up to him and say, I want to take over the shop when you're done, or he comes up to you and says, I'm going to be done. Do you want to take over the shop? How did that all go? And was he surprised to know that you really wanted to, throw yourself into this that way?
Well, the year prior to taking over, that back half of the season, about 3 months of the season, John had gotten sick, and he couldn't work. He was just sick, and he was unable to come in or anything. And I kind of literally just got thrown in, hey, I told John, I'm like, I'll go in there, I'll do what I can, and pretty much just took my knowledge of drilling my own stuff and kind of applied it forward, as best I could. Any chance I had that if I had a problem, I'd give him a call, and, he talked me through it. And then, after that season, him and I talked more, and found out he was serious about, he wanted to be out of the business side of it. He's like, and in his show, I mean, he is so passionate about this sport and about drilling. He still loved doing it. He still loves doing it to this day, and that's not something that you can fake. You know what I mean?
Right.
He just, the business side of it kind of ate him up a little bit, mentally and everything. And he was just ready. He had been in it for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
So it worked out perfect to where we'd be able to do this.
Yeah. And you start building a team. I asked Gus about kind of how that part of it went, how he, got into it. He said you approached him, said, look, you're knowledgeable, you're well respected. Would you come on board? And he told me, he said, I jumped on it because he saw the passion that you had in the sport, not only learning from John about drilling and things like that, but he mentioned guys like you, Dave Barris, Chad Moss, kind of being that next generation after those Lens Limited guys to really, start competing seriously, to kind of watch what they did and the success they had and apply it to your own game. And he says you took the sport as seriously as they did. What is that like to know that you've got, that kind of respect from a guy who has won so many national titles, national team titles, USBC Hall of Famer, the list goes on.
It means more than I can ever explain, to be honest with you. A lot of times, I think I take it for granted, because I'm always with Gus. You know, I get the big brother talks, and I get the, you know, everything else to. And there's plenty of times I ask him, you know, hey, you know, I don't want to make a fool out of myself, or, you know, do something I shouldn't do, or say something I shouldn't say. And, you know, he's always looking out for me, you know, whether he's here or not. And it means, honestly, I can't even explain what it does mean to me. I mean, I love the man. He has always been great to me. So,
you know, Duty told me, he said, you know, he, meaning you, has never turned do a question or someone asking for advice. I think he meant down. For once a week handicap bowler to a scratch bowler who has a question and needs clarity. He said you taught him how to drill his own stuff and Amber's stuff, check pitches, do the plug work, pro shop side of the business. That's a lot. I mean, to teach other people not only the pro shop side of it, but the bowling side of it, and you offer lessons. But how do you do it all?
See this gray hair? No, I enjoy it. And honestly, like when it comes to like what Matt was saying, and Matt's a great guy. He's like my younger brother. You know, I have 2 older brothers myself. Matt's like my younger brother, that almost how Gus is with me, where, you know, I'm pretty sure Gus feels he could tell me anything. You know, if I'm being a moron, he's not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, Chad, you're being an idiot. You know, and I feel with Matt, you know, he's a great human being, and an extremely great friend. You know, you could ask a million people around, they would tell you, you need a ride at 2 in the morning, Matt will be the first one to pick up his phone, you know. Yeah. But the helping others, and I've always been this way, even when I used to be really good, and I would go bowl league or sub in a league or whatever, I never treated somebody based on their bowling ability. To me, that is not, you know, I just don't feel that's right. I have so many people that I associate with that average 120 and a bunch that average 240. You know, your bowling ability should not define you. And I feel anyways, that if you're given a gift or you work hard towards that gift or talent, why not pass it along? Why not share it? Why not help somebody, especially when you see the passion that others have for it? You know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that really, really like the game and are close to at least being able to do it competitively, you know, and bowl some tournaments and make a couple extra bucks, you know, and just take that chance and enjoy it. And if I can help them do that, then that's just as rewarding as me having success.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how we grow the sport, right? One bowler at a time.
Yeah.
So we got to get into Will, because, you know, he told me about how you guys met, and he said he first met you when he got to get out of the pro shop because he was here at another shop and bowl some of the events like Bob Greenfield's Milwaukee Open or other tournaments. He said he knew early on that you can compete. He said you were very approachable and was quick to help him get acclimated to the bowling environments in the Milwaukee area. And I mean, he's coming from Florida, from another state, so I'm assuming he needed that. But tell me what your thoughts are on kind of meeting Will and getting to know him after he got here.
Well, around that time was right around, I had a little, you know, and not saying anything bad, but nothing but respect for these people. But that was around the falling out time of myself with Chad Moss and Dave Barrison at our team. And it took me one time seeing Will throw the ball. That's all it took. The guy's got unbelievable talent. And that was enough for me. And then when you talk to him and you see him, it makes it so much easier. I mean, Will as a bowler is great. And I expect to win a ton of stuff with him as long as he wants to carry me. Will as a person is even better. And that's the part that I mean, I love bowling with the guy. I'll lace it up with him any day. But as a person, he's a genuine, good-hearted, great kid. And I'm blessed to have him in my life, you know, in every avenue. And even with the shop stuff, you know, I'm still new. You know, I'm only 5 years in. You know, and I told Will, you know, there's times I ask Will, hey, you've been doing this longer than me. You know, I mean, I always tell them guys, you know, if there's something else that comes up, feel free. And you know, Will is, he's in my ambassador of Quan. If you remember what movie that's from.
Jerry Maguire.
Yep. Yeah.
But explain what the Quan is.
He's just everything. Honestly, he is. He's got my heart. He's got everything. And I will go out on a limb and say this, not just as a person, but now going to the bowling side of Will. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, Will is going to accomplish a lot of very special things. I've been around a ton of talented bowlers, and especially in the Milwaukee area. And Will, he's got it. I mean, he's got it.
Yeah. Here's the team. He's in there on the left.
Yep.
And there you all are. You know, you talked about kind of moving on from Barris and Moss's team to kind of start forming this one. Did it take a while to get all the pieces in place?
It did. You know, my team with Barris and Moss, and then we finished second with them as well. You know, we set the record the year the record got broke again by 200 pins. Eric Fritten and I had started putting stuff together, and you know, then as we started going along through that, I believe I started looking at Will. That's when Will and I started talking, and then Tucker. You know, Tucker was him, and I believe they were kind of a package deal. I don't know if they said they were a package deal or not, but either way, I mean, they're both great players. And then Mitch, I bowled Mitch on tour, and he was available. You know, we had talked and everything, and he jumped on. And then, you know, recently we had a Mr. Bean there in the middle, and Joe is another one. He's a great kid, and I'll tell you what, he's getting confidence. He can toss the rock, and the one thing he has lacked is confidence. And I'm looking very forward, you know, with these guys. I mean, we all can do a little different things, but we all come together great as a team on and off the lanes, you know, and I think we can do some real special things with this team.
Yeah. Tell me about 2019. I mean, Will, said, boy, he was a bad mamma jamma in 2019. You guys had back-to-back top 5 team all events, second in team at the USBC Open Championships, WSBT over 40 under 40 championship in 2019. You had the lead in the Peterson this year, 2 Milwaukee City doubles titles, a top 50 in doubles at the OC. How did it feel to have it kind of all come together in that little stretch of time?
Well, you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
Gus and I were in a car accident back in June of, I believe, 28. Well, what year? Yeah, 2018, I believe.
Okay.
At Bowl Expo, and we were T-boned by 2 F-150s. Oof. And I broke 4 ribs. Gus got his head. You know, he had to have plastic surgery done. Well, that also messed up my neck. So even to this point, so I'm planning on having surgery in July. My C6 and 7 are done. So I had to find a way to get through bowling. You know, I need bowling. I love it. Plus the shop, you know, I'm the main full-time person, so I got to be here.
Yeah.
So I have been just kind of dealing with it, you know, pain management, everything else. And bowling every tournament, I'm not a person that wants to get, say, addicted to medications or any of that. So when it came to taking, like, say, a Percocet, to get through bowling, there were events I had to do that, especially if there were longer format events and stuff. And, I would never do that at work. I would never do that, and honestly, that was a big part of just getting through bowling. To me, I focused more at that time on just getting through bowling. My mind was clear, because it wasn't really about, hey, I'm going to make this great shot, or I never overthought anything. It was just, you know what, go up and make a shot. If it hurts, it hurts. It's going to hurt either way. So don't think about it. And that's pretty much, my head was very clear that year, so, and even now it is, I was in some pain this past weekend, but like I said, I'm trying to get through every event and trying to, figure out a way to get myself a little healthy again too, even before the surgery. I'm putting that off till after nationals this year, and then come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, the pandemic starts last March, and let's face it, it's hell on the bowling industry, and, tough enough for centers to survive, but the pro shop side of it has got to suffer even more if not a lot of people are bowling. How have you been able to, to keep it going?
Well, the one thing that we've done in the Milwaukee area, which none of the other shops have done, and I consider quite a few of those shop owners friends, but most of them have never done the same day or next day drilling, which was huge for us. It started bringing us a lot of different individuals. And to be honest, when Milwaukee kind of shut itself down for a while, but the surrounding area of Milwaukee didn't. Milwaukee City was shut down,
Right.
but Oak Creek was open, Waukesha was open, all these other places were open, and bowling was really the only thing to do. And surprisingly, it was one of the best summers we had,
Wow.
and Gus Unaris and I, we were sitting in the back and we were thinking of something because all the centers, people wanted to bowl. So we had come up with this sweeper, and at the time, Joe Vrobel ran Country Lanes, who it's now owned by Kevin and Leanne Meyer. The previous owner, Bob, Joe managed the place, and we approached him, and he jumped on board with it, and now you start seeing other centers starting to do it, and they said it was the best summer they ever had,
Wow.
and people want to bowl right now, and anybody can do it. That's the best part about it. It's not something, you're not going to get as mad as if you're a really bad golfer,
Exhibit A.
But if you're shooting 180 when you're golfing, and you have to keep walking around different, to get your golf ball, you're going to get a little irritated. With bowling, you can still talk with your friends, have fun and everything. You shoot 110, so what? You're having fun with your friends.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people, and one of the other big things we've had in the shop anyways is a lot of people that used to bowl a long time ago, maybe they have kids now and they've kind of gotten out of it. Well, during the pandemic, they took their kids to a bowling center. Well, the last time they was in a center was 25 years ago. Well, now they see these centers. A lot of them are updated. A lot of them are, there's no smoking. There's no yellow stained masking units. That drove home for a lot of people, and they're getting back into it now.
Sure. It's a different environment, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Matt, and like you had said about him, he said you're not just a friend or a shop owner or teammate, not even a mentor. You're his brother, just like you said about him. So I'm gonna kind of put that out there to sugarcoat what I'm gonna say next, because he tells me about Riviera Lanes and how you guys threw a league there on Thursday. And he says that you ended up forgetting your rosin bag, let's just say more than once. When that would happen, Did you ever try to go to the counter and get it back?
Yes, I did. And God rest his soul, Dan Doherty, who was the owner of Riviera, passed. And he was one of the best proprietors around. And, he made light of every situation, had fun with every individual. And next thing you know, it was being announced every week about, other pro shops having rosin bags on sale that I should go get one. And yeah, he had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. No, and Riviera's a great center. I remember it when it was B&B. Kind of dating myself there, but great center and a great community. We have a ton of comments. I want to get to all of them, so let me see if I can get to the top here. Will says he's got to give the salsa a try, and I agree. You got to give the salsa a try. I'm going to try and help you with that as we go down the line here. Duty says Chatty Daddy. That's a good one.
Yep, that's one of those nicknames.
Yeah. Kim Kenny says, "Hi, baby." Thank you so much, Kim, for the pictures, by the way. I don't know if this works as well as it did if she didn't send the pictures. And, just so you know, she did send over a bunch of them that, you were asleep in, and I didn't want to.
Oh, thank you for
those out. I'm trying to use a little discretion here. So Joe Job Search says, "Hey, Will, I have the sauce. It's excellent." Yes, they do make sauce as well. So glad to hear you're enjoying that. Kim says, "Chattert the goat." Any story behind that?
No, I have no idea why she said that or where it's from, but I at this moment, I'm hoping to give Lenny a run for his over 50 success here in 5 years. That's the goal.
There you go.
Lenny set the bar really, really, really high, and
oh yeah,
gotta keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Let's see. Joe says didn't even know Chad played golf. Do you often?
I used to. So
Yeah.
I got pretty good. We used to go to Mesquite with Steve Yeager, and I was part of the Curry Men's Club. And we'd take 16 guys, and we would go to Mesquite, Nevada for 10, 11 days, play 13 rounds of golf. It was a kind of a tournament thing we put together, and I loved golf. Absolutely, absolutely loved it. And I've now swung a club 2 times since our accident.
Oh, wow.
And it's just not feasible for me to even really play right now, at least not without pain.
Yeah.
So I've kind of stayed away from it now.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Kim says that you're decent. I'm assuming she means about golf. And she says he has me. That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, Kim's a great girl. She's a great girl. The boys, obviously she has 2 kids as well that, I mean, they're my stepkids. They're good. And they're getting into bowling. They're all getting into bowling, so it's kind of nice. We got, the 3 kids with my little guy, he's into bowling, and my daughter's in college now, so that's everything's great.
Yeah. Matt says no one 710's better.
He's an idiot.
I love how he's gone from being your brother to an idiot in 10 minutes here? Does he mean leaving him or making him?
Oh yeah, leaving him.
Okay.
I've gotten away from I only hook the ball now when I have to. When the lane tells me, hey, there's enough friction, you can move in and hook it.
Yeah.
And so I tend to 710 quite a bit when I decide to just play a little straighter and throw it a little harder. Ball doesn't seem to hit very well at times. So
yeah. No, I've been told that I do that a lot too, and what are you gonna do, right? Will says that he also won lacrosse and the Minnesota Masters in 2019. That's true. I left those things out. That's both of those are great tournaments. Lacrosse, obviously, we saw last weekend. All the great competitors that come out of there. Those 2 must have been incredibly special for you.
Yeah. between that, I think I would. Yeah, I won the Milwaukee Open that year as well. All of those events, they're events that Minnesota Masters. That was the first time I bowled it. But lacrosse, the Milwaukee Open, those are tournaments that you put on your calendar every year. Those are events you're going to go to. They're very important to win. It's always a strong field, always a lot of great competitors there. As you've seen, you were there this weekend, a lot of really good players. And they're special to win, and the tournaments, the way they're just run so good. Nick Heilman does a wonderful job in lacrosse, and here we have Eric Peterson now that took over. Bob Greenfield used to run that event now that Peterson does. And I like to support the people that really give a lot of effort into their event.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Joe says, okay, game on for golf next spring, summer. I sure as hell can't bowl you anymore. Do we know who Joe is?
I'm wondering who this is. I know some. Not sure. Not sure who this one is.
Okay. Carson Kenny says Chad is mid.
Yeah, that's Kim's youngest. Okay. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, I don't either, but Joe says it's Joe Natoli. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Joe? That's the hard thing about, this show is there's a lot of people that do get left out that, it goes by so fast and you don't think about Joe's one of those. He is always been involved in bowling. Great player. Nicest guy ever. Won't handshake with me at all. Always a hug, and I respect him tremendously. That whole era, with Gus and Joe and all of them there, it's just, there's so much respect in that era. And that's kind of what I try passing along to all the kids that come through the shop and everything else is, respect the older generation that paved the way for you, and, yeah, Joe's amazing.
Yeah. I had a great conversation with him about a week ago. He's on my calendar, so we'll have him on the show coming up in the new year. So back to Kim. He says, that's my name for him, and welcome, and that was my son, and Jaden calls you Chattert. She's pumping out these messages, let me tell you. Justin Duzon says, Chad's a good friend and a great bowler. He's helped my family of bowlers out tremendously.
Yeah, Justin's a good guy, and he's one of those people I was talking about as well, with the drive and the passion to get better, get competitive. I mean, he just shot 780 or 790 in the trios event in Milwaukee yesterday. And that's kind of part of our shop scene. That's our anybody that ever wants to, they're always welcome to hang out. They're always welcome to come in. JD was here at 8:30 this morning. I get in at 7:30. He just comes in and hangs out and talks for a while. And that's what most of these people, most of these customers, they're not just customers, they're friends. And then that friendship turns into more. And, it just, and you see it with so many people in here. And, that's why, between Gus and Will and, I've truly been blessed to be able to spend a lot more time with these people. It's made me a better person. Gus's knowledge and him and I kind of went at it a little at times. Sometimes, we think a little different and everything else, but getting, that help. And I listen to him talk to others too. And it just helps so much. I mean, people don't understand how much you can soak in your brain, but with the bowling talk that goes on in this shop over the course of a week, I mean, if we could video that, people would be amazed. I mean, we are truly bowling nerds. I mean, that's, but it's fun. It's enjoyable hearing different viewpoints and what people think and what they say and how they see things. It's just awesome.
Yeah. So these last couple are kind of keeping me accountable. He said, also, Chad, you're going to be late to bowling tonight. And Carson said, you better do good at bowling. And you are bowling tonight, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So why don't we go off the sheet? And that's where we ask you to challenge somebody else to be on a future episode. And, skill level could be anywhere on the, it runs the gamut. It's somebody who's passionate about the sport and has a unique story to tell. So, Chad Kloss, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
Well, I'm going to follow the previous few here and strike out in the 10th for you. With
all right.
My first one is going to be Goldilocks, Mitch Beasley, my teammate and friend. Mitch has some good stories. He's obviously still out on tour, and I think he would be really good. Then I'm going to go a little different here. John Bercier from Brunswick. He's a DSM, great guy, amazing guy, and I want to take 1 minute to tell you the story about him when we're done.
Yeah.
And third would be Steve Jarls.
Oh.
I think Steve Jarls would be a good one, in my opinion, one of the most underrated professional bowlers in the history of the game. Phenomenal game. So he would be one. So the Bercier thing, I messaged him earlier to make sure it was okay. That was how I signed with Brunswick. I meet this guy at Bowl Expo. We're sitting down playing Paigow. I took Megna out there. We're having fun till 5 a.m. He's asking why I won't sign this and that. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to sign with the company. I got the shop. I want to throw everything. He's like, there's only one way. Only one way I would sign. I said, if you re-release the melee jab. 6 months later, he comes up. He goes, I'm not saying, he goes, anything's happening. He goes, but I'll have a contract at Bull Expo next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Just for the occasion.
Yep. That's where I originally had the camera set up before, was with the melee on the wall in the background.
Ah, okay. Yeah. He said that's your favorite.
Oh yeah. I like this weekend, obviously I fell a little short this weekend, but of my 9 bowling balls that made the trip, 7 of them were melees.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's saying a lot. And Mitch, John, Steve, if you're watching this and you're interested in, taking on Chad's challenge, let me know. You can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com, or you can DM me on Facebook, and we would love to get you on the calendar. Like I said, I got to get you out of here because you're bowling league tonight. So best of luck to you. And thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and really having a great team of pros there at Bowlers headquarters, who have shared, several of whom have shared their stories here too. Before we get out of here, if anybody in the Milwaukee area or surrounding area is interested in pro shop services through you guys, where do they go? Where do they call?
We're located at 3163 South Beloit, or 92nd Street. Phone number is 414-543-6630. We're right across from Beloit Lanes, and if you can't get in touch with us there, just message me on Facebook, and we always answer. So
there you go. All right. Well, like I said, best of luck tonight and moving forward. And we'll be looking forward to, following your success here in the upcoming weeks and months.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks again for everything you do. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Happy to do it. Everyone have a great week. Be just and fear not. And we will see you next week.